All right. Good evening here in Mexico. Buenas tardes. And good morning to those of you on the other side of the world. And hi, everybody. Man, this is exciting and fun. Oh, we're loving it. Rachel's wearing her Mexican garb and a scarf because we're outside. Check out this view, everybody. We just got to share the view there. Look at the mountains in the distance. Oh, man, it's amazing. And life is amazing, and you are amazing. Okay, everyone just share something right now. Throw it in the chat, something you're grateful for. Let's just stop and say, what are you feeling grateful for right now? And I have to say, I am really grateful. Hold on, I got to open the chat here so I can see. Modern medicine, yeah. Grateful for modern medicine. Signing my daughter up for jujitsu tonight. Yay. Yeah. That's so cool. She did great in her first class. Oh, fun. I love things like that. Seriously love things like that. One of my coaching clients, he bought season tickets for his whole family to ski. And he was telling me today, he's like, man, I did not anticipate how much my kids would grow from the skiing experience. You know, at first they're just falling all the time, constantly falling, and they're like, oh, they're going to hate this and be miserable. And then after they don't fall, you're worried that they're not going to be cognizant enough, and they're just going to run into other people, and other people are going to run into them, and they're going to be a terror and get lost on the mountain. They won't. And he's just like, they're doing so amazing. It's like, and they're being, you know, they're getting confident and competent. It's like so exciting. So those things are beautiful.
I was thinking something like that today because we walked into the city from where our house is here, and it's like a 15-minute walk, but it's steep, like down these steep hills, right, into Guanajuato. And when we came back, my 4-year-old, she basically walked the whole way. And I was just like so impressed. I was like, yes, this is awesome. But I was thinking that, like, just, you know, the very nature of walking
Yep.
somewhere,
Going to a new place and saying,
Yeah.
hey, we're not driving, we're walking. And they're
And
just like,
she-
okay, we'll walk.
Yeah.
And we took them up hiking, and they're just getting more confident and strong. It's awesome. Those of you who are just joining us, I know a few of you are coming in right now. We're just sharing something in the chat right now that we're really grateful for. My gratitude was today. We took the morning because our 4-year-old, she just kept asking, I want to go back to the city. I love the city. I want to go back to the city because we're just outside Guanajuato, and it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, like really old colonial city. It's just amazing. And tucked in these hills, old mining town. And we go walk through the city, and it's just so, so fun. And so she loved it. And so today we're like, you know, we're going to take off the morning, and we're going to walk up the street and get some tacos, which were amazing. If you guys haven't had tacos in Mexico, you haven't lived life yet, because they're good. And then after that, we walked down and got some gelato, a little Italian gelato. And so I'm grateful for tacos and gelato today. That's what I'm talking about. It was good. It was real good. Awesome. Let's keep reading. My oldest daughter is having her first baby in the beginning of March. I get to be a grandma. Yeah, that is so cool.
1 or 2.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, yep, got
We
it.
got that
Shall to be the mother of 2 beautiful children who teach me so much every day. Amen to that. Man, we learn so much from kids. Those poor people who don't have kids, they don't know anything.
Pretty sure that's politically incorrect.
Yeah. Should I not have said that? Okay. So everyone else who's just jumping in, go ahead and just share something in the chat box you're grateful for. Just share something you're feeling grateful for right now. Okay. If the audio is not
this is
working.
the problem with the audio not working.
Yeah. So do you want to, and they can't hear us. So let's just give this. Ba-boom.
I need to add instructions.
Copy link. Here's the link.
So for future reference.
Yeah, anyone who can hear us.
If it's ever not working, go back in, because you're logging into Extraordinary Family Life and going through the course. You go back to that place, and underneath it says open in Zoom. And if you open in Zoom, then
then it all seems to
it
work.
seems to work better.
And
Especially on mobile devices, it works better.
and thanks, Mary, for throwing that in there. Hit join audio button at the bottom left corner. Yeah,
That too.
love it. Okay, so maybe there's a
Note
bunch
to
of people
self,
can't hear us.
add
Yeah, add some
instructions.
instructions. Okay, all right. Thank you. I'm excited, awake, energized, and live. Anything else you guys want to share? Like things going well, we're gonna just kind of connect tonight and do some fun coaching and
Talk about principles and
talk about
practices.
things.
Talk about sing.
We're gonna eat some what's
Masaka.
wasaka, talk about sing. That's a reference from a Greek guy in Australia. So maybe Chanel, you ever heard that guy on the radio? He said wasaka, talk about sing. No, all right. Well, it's not
Whatever.
important. Okay, Miriam says, I am grateful for seeing some major changes in my life finally. Hallelujah.
Yay for changes.
I love that, right? Feels so good. Feeling grateful for all the peace I feel, even when the world is in turmoil.
Mm.
The world's in turmoil? What's going on? What?
You're not that clueless.
Like, I don't watch
Maybe
the
a little bit,
news,
but
so I don't know. Everything is happy, rainbows and unicorns,
no tacos and
No,
gelato.
tacos and gelato. It's all good. I love it. That's fantastic, Miriam. And I just sent Abby a message, so be sure to respond to that message. Little side note there about the class for tomorrow. Okay, let's get started. Should we do the coaching first?
Yes.
Because somebody sent us a message.
No, not a massage. A message.
A message. Somebody sent us a message with a really fantastic question. So we want to answer said fantastic questione. You ready for this? And we also have some good news from Lindy. Her daughter is going to serve a mission trip for her church in an amazing place. And I was jealous, and I think I have to go visit. Gosh, I was like, what? That's so crazy cool.
We are contemplating putting off the Inca Trail until we pick her up and then having her go with us. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but
Me neither,
Awesome.
because Peru's amazing. But I don't know if it's open yet. Okay, so waiting for her to come back. And tell everyone where she's going.
oh, so she's going to Concepcion, Chile.
Yeah.
And her father served in Chile, different mission, different city, but he served in Chile 25 years ago. So it's kind of
Oh,
fun.
it's a special family connection.
That's cool.
Oh,
My
so
father
fun.
actually served in Concepcion.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Whoa,
So cool.
so cool. And Chile, I've heard Chile is amazing. Oh, so cool. So exciting. Congratulations. That's wonderful. Okay, here we go. Ready. So this came in. Having a hard time with my goals. First of all, I've made way too many, which are just ridiculous. Any of you have a problem with that? You ambitious, highly driven people, you crank out the goals. And people are like, do you have any goals? I'm like, yeah, 497. Try to keep up. Because I basically wrote down how I would like to have like a perfect life. Now, okay, you guys,
I
there's
was about to
so
say,
much.
now wait a second.
No, wait a second. What were you gonna say? Go for it.
Maybe you should go first.
Okay.
Actually, no, I'll go first.
Okay.
So one thing I want to say about that is that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, that it can be a very good strategy. Now, not that life will ever be perfect, 100%, but having an ideal that you're working towards is how you should do life. So having this, writing down this perfect life you want to have, that's a good thing, as long as you understand that it will never be totally perfect. Now that's kind of a contradiction. You're like, oh, wait, how does that work? Right? But that's actually the nature of life. It's a series of contradictions that you have to learn to embrace, both of them, the dichotomies, right? So when you have this idea of a perfect life, it actually orients you towards something that you're working towards. And you actually find the most meaning in life when you're working towards achieving that rather than actually achieving it. Like you could have a perfect day and that would not be necessarily as meaningful as the journey of getting to that day.
So we all need to have a noble aim and a lofty ideal.
Mhm.
In fact, I want to encourage all of you to have that. Not that we're setting ourselves up for disappointment, because I've talked to a lot of people and they're like,
Right.
why have big dreams and goals? It's just setting myself up for
Right.
disappointment. And it's not that. And so it's the meaning you give it, right? If the meaning you give it is like, that's perfect and I'll never get there, then it feels like disappointment all the time. But if you hold it up and say, this is my ideal, I'm going to keep working towards it, it's actually really motivating in our human psyche. And I think in our spirit and our
Mhm.
hearts, we want to be working towards something great. So having this massive goal list of the perfect life,
Mhm.
I actually think is fantastic, because
Mhm.
you have this really great target.
And you need to have that target. You have to have
Because-
that target.
Because we find this all the time. This is one of the greatest obstacles. And if you have youth in your home, or maybe the spouse or family members or friends that aren't going anywhere, they aren't doing anything, they're totally unmotivated, they're spending their life just like numbing themselves with addictive substances or
Buffering is
entertainment,
what
they're
we call that.
buffering, they're just doing all that stuff, they're avoiding, they're numbing. It's usually because they don't have a big lofty ideal or a noble aim.
Mhm.
And so that actually destroys and this is just pure psychology. It destroys the human psyche if we don't have something to aim for that's
Mhm.
above where we are.
Mhm.
So it's actually a really healthy, beautiful, wonderful thing. So have the ideals, my friends, put them up on the wall and say, and say to yourself, give it this meaning. That's where I'm going. That's what I'm working on. Not, oh, I'm never good enough. Oh, I'm so far away. Oh, it's so far. Don't beat yourself up and say, that's where I'm heading.
And then, of course, the other extreme, which we'll get into this more, of course, is when you have that lofty ideal and then you're working to achieve it and you start to feel like it's impossible and you beat yourself up and you
Yeah, I burn myself out
Yeah.
because I just go crazy and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this and this and this and this and this. And then I just kill myself for a week and then I just am like, well, I can't sustain this and I'm done.
So the next 2 weeks you lay around like, help, I'm recovering from my week of going after my goals. Yes. So there's a balance in
and
that.
there's actually something very interesting there, because part of achieving your ideal requires you to do more and more and more. Like it actually does. And that seems very overwhelming, but what you have to learn how to do is to do more and then recover,
Yes.
and to do that consistently so that you don't burn out. When you can do more and recover from it, that's growing. It's exactly the same as like building muscle, lifting weights. You lift the weights, but you can't lift, it's not sustainable to lift the weights 24 hours a day nonstop. That's not sustainable. And yet that's what a lot of us try to do. We try to just go out and go and never actually recover and allow the muscles to recover and allow the growth to occur. So we have to find the balance of doing more and then recovering so that we grow and can keep doing more.
So can I invite you to write that down? I know we've talked about it before. You've probably written it down somewhere else, but it's just valuable to everyone. Just write this down, jot it down. Increase my stress and my recovery. Maybe not stress, maybe put effort. Increase my effort and my recovery. That is a critical element. One of my coaching clients, she was like that. She's like, hey, when I'm on it by Wednesday, I'm like dying. Thursday, Friday, I'm like, kids, just turn on the TV. Like I'm done working so hard on my goals. But she's like, but then by Monday, I feel fantastic. I'm like, why? And she's like, well, I rest on Sunday. I'm like, okay, what do you need to do on Wednesday? And she's like, oh, I need some more rest and recovery. So I'm like, why don't you plan in some recovery on Wednesday so that Thursday, it's almost like you've had a restart. So be more, all of us, be more strategic about recovering when you know you're increasing effort to level up your life. That's good.
But that kind of feels like counterproductive because it's like, I don't have time to recover.
Yeah.
I got stuff to do.
Yep. You're right. Exactly. And we felt that. And what happens is we get in our heads and we're like, we get stressed and we get overwhelmed. And like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. I can't stop. But that's the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Like everyone listen up. That is the secret sauce to true high performance.
And it's to the point now, because I've experienced it, I know when I'm starting to get that feeling of overwhelm and burnout, I'm like, I got to take a break. I'm going to actually slow down instead of increase. So I slow down, I take a break, and then I'm ready to go back at it. And I actually am more productive, more effective. My thinking's clearer. My state is better. My attitude is more positive. So you're right. It seems completely counterintuitive, and yet that is the secret.
And you find that the truest high performers that can sustain that ideal for, yes, exactly, the powerful engagement. Thank you very
Yes.
much,
Mhm.
Chanel.
That's what we're
Exactly what he
talking
talks
about
about.
right
That book is so gold. The powerful engagement, you guys, it's really good. But you'll see that the people who sustain high performance for a long time and they're well-rounded, have healthy relationships, good health, they're really productive and succeeding. They have both micro recoveries throughout the day. They'll every 60, we've talked about this, every 60 minutes they'll stop and they'll move their bodies and they'll stand up and they'll do some stretching, some yoga, get a healthy snack, maybe lay down and rest for a second, dance to a song. They do micro recoveries, and then they have planned recoveries, the weekends, or 1 weekend getaway per month, or a big trip every quarter. That was an ideal I just read. They're like, hey, every quarter you should be taking a little trip, just get away, and no work allowed, break away. And so if you can sustain that, then you come back fresh and renewed and ready to engage. But you will burn out. We all will. We will burn out so fast if we just try to go too hard. And then you're just laying there like, you've been like roadkill. Okay, let's keep going. We still got more, people. We haven't even got to the first paragraph.
Yeah.
We haven't got to the real question yet. Here we go. There's some goals that I pretty much had concrete items for that now I think we need to reevaluate and be changed. Where is the line between giving up and not doing your best versus having grace? It's your life and you're in control of it. Okay, really good. So holding the ideal, going all in, giving your best, and having grace for yourself when you're not your best. Now, you guys probably don't struggle with this. Most of you are probably your best all the time. And so you're like, what are you even talking about? But when Rachel and I don't live up to our high ideals, there has to be some grace there. Now, there's a fine line between grace and indulgence, right?
Or justification.
Or justification or rationalization. I love this line in Atomic Habits, that great book, Atomic Habits. He said, it's okay if, you miss your goal. You have a target and you've committed and you miss once. But he said this, I never miss twice. And I love that. It's okay to miss once. Don't miss twice. Because if you miss twice or 3 times, then you're just getting into this pattern again of like,
habit of not doing it.
Well, it's just hard, so I'm not doing it. You're like, no, I missed today. It's okay. I'm good. I'm not going to beat myself up. Tomorrow I'm on it. And we hold ourselves to that standard. So that's kind of where I feel like the balance fits in.
And I think that for me, this idea of having grace and like life happens versus you're in control of your life comes down to learning that you ultimately get to choose how you respond to life that happens to you, right? So, because especially as having kids, being a mom, like things just happen, like life, the kids are, doing all their things. And
moms always use it as an excuse.
I know, it's because it's legit, right? But I had to learn that I was in control of how I responded, and I could start thinking of how to prevent, direct, guide, right? To help my kids help me achieve the things I wanted to do.
Because people, including children, treat you the way you train them to treat you.
Yeah.
Man, it's so important.
So you have to start being aware of what's happening and the interruptions that are occurring. And this is what I learned. In the moment, I kind of just accept it as it is and I make the best of it. So if they're interrupting me or they're, made a mess or whatever else, I accept it and I make the best of it in the moment. And then I think, especially if it happens more than once, I think, how can I prevent this from happening in the future? Like, what can I do to be more proactive or intentional about creating a solution long term, right? So that was usually my two-step approach to life getting in the way, is accepting it, but then trying to do something about it from happening in the future, or setting up systems that whatever to just help life flow in the direction I want it to go, because we are in control. We are in control of our life. And when we feel like we're not in control, it's because there's something that we have yet to master, some aspect of our life that we haven't mastered yet. And what's happening to us is kind of like a signal or a sign of like, hey, pay attention right here, this thing, this is something you need to take care of. And once you take care of that, then you notice, okay, as things start to keep flowing smoother.
Can I ask, just I want you to do a kind of a personal evaluation, maybe jot something down. What areas of your life feel out of control right now? Just maybe jot that down and just kind of be cognizant of it. We often just kind of go along in survival mode, and we don't become cognizant enough of what's going on and realize, geez, this little part, I feel irritated, I feel frustrated, I feel stressed, overwhelmed. And then you pause in a moment like this, and you're like, what is it that's out of control? And you're like, you know what? It's that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you stop there with that awareness, then we have to do what Rachel's saying, and that, man, this is critical. And I hope this doesn't just kind of skim over and you're like, oh, that was important. Like, I want you to grab hold of this and say, wait a minute, I have to be more proactive. I've got to do something about the things that feel out of control in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And please, I know I used to do this. I used to think, well, I can't do anything about it, or I've tried everything. I used to really think that a lot. Like, what can I do about that? It's crazy. People just treat me like that. That's just what they do. It's them. I can't do anything about them. Until I realized, oh, wait a minute, there's always something I can do. Always something I can do. And when I became more proactive, oh man, all these situations and circumstances that seemed out of control, I got back in control.
Mm-hmm.
It was a game changer for me. So don't slip over that. Anyone want to share? What areas of your life feel out of control right now? You can throw them in the chat, or you can say it on mic. This is a safe group where we can share that stuff. Hi, my name's Greg, and just circle up here, people. This is out of control.
Does your life feel out of control in any way?
Let's see, any part of my life feel out of control right now? Nope. My life's amazing right now, you guys. I was just sitting here, I'm like, this is surreal. Like, the sun is setting.
It's
You
set.
can't even see it
It's
now.
gone.
The sun has set. It is dark.
It's dark.
We're
now.
sitting outside in a t-shirt in Mexico, and we ate tacos today, people. And now we get to meet with our friends and feel inspired. Like, who gets to do this stuff? Come on. This is crazy. I love it. So getting there now to more control, but my big things were my health, my spirituality, and motherhood and parenting. Love it.
Mhm.
Love it. Love it. And we were talking to Chanel before the recording, and just talking about, she's just getting it down and nailing it, and has recovered from her surgery and is getting back on it. It's just so exciting and so wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Nobody else is going to fess up. The rest of y'all are like, my list is too big. Just kidding. You can turn on your mic too if you want. Feeling out
That's a
of
good one.
control in parenting teenagers and technology. Man, that one comes up a lot. And it's a challenge in our home too. This technology stuff, it is awesome, but it's a two-edged sword, isn't it, you guys?
Mhm.
Like, so
True.
many cool things we can do for education and learning and
Mhm.
wonder. And then gaming and pornography and brain dead teens that you want to wring their neck because you love them so much. I'm just giving your neck a hug with my bicep because I love you and you play too many games. I know how it is. One of my coaching sessions today, her, she has adult children that they moved out and then kind of came back because of COVID, and they just are killing themselves with video games, and it's a real challenge. So it's real. That one's tough. But again, that's something that we do have more control than we think, and more influence than we think. You have more power there.
And going back to, I mean, discussing the noble aim, I feel that that's directly connected,
Agreed.
especially with teenagers. Because we were talking about this the other day, just the other night, actually, with Devin, who's our son. He's not really our son, mentor. And because the thing is, it's challenging with technology is two people could be sitting on their devices and be doing completely different things, right? Like we use devices a lot, us, because it's our business. So we're marketing and we're creating content and we're coaching. And
I use my phone to change people's lives, man. It's awesome. And to change my life. And then other people use the phone and like,
well, so right. So that's what I was saying. Like you could be sitting there on the device and you could be creating or you could be consuming, right? You could be fulfilling your life's mission or you could just be wasting your time. So that's one of the hard things is because when you're trying to deal with teenagers and technology, essentially it's not clear cut. You can't just say, oh, don't get on it or don't do this or don't, whatever. It's you have to teach that principle behind it. And you have to help them get a noble aim. When they have a noble aim, then they might be on a device, but they're doing it to create.
Right.
Versus if they don't have, if they're missing some sort of purpose and direction, then they're getting on to entertain themselves and they're getting on to buffer and like
for boredom
Yeah.
or I have nothing better to do.
Exactly.
I don't know friends. I feel lonely. You guys, it's the same reason, when you ask people, anyone who has an addiction, say, when does the addiction pop up? Right. And they're like, well, when I feel lonely, when I feel guilty, when I feel shame, when I feel bored, when I feel discouraged, right? Those pop up, right? Same thing with like entertainment and those kind of things. Oh, I just feel like that. But when they have a great story, a big goal, something they're excited about,
or just more responsibility in general.
more responsibility, then those things naturally go away. And the teens they'll choose for themselves. If they're living a better story or if they have something more, here's the ticket. This is the golden ticket. You ready? They have to have something in their life more exciting than entertainment. That's the goal right there.
Yeah.
And so my son, Parker, the kid's on fire. Like all these kids are. They're just setting these huge goals on their own. They're like, okay, I'm going to do 300 push-ups a day. And if I don't do my push-ups, I'll pay my friends $5. I'm like, you came up with that? That's amazing. And so now they've been doing it for a couple months and they're all just like ripped. They have muscles bulging. We have to buy more clothes because they're getting amazing. And then Parker's like, you know what? He's 16.
We're traveling through Mexico.
Yeah, we're traveling through Mexico. He's like, I'm going to try to make $1,000 in the next 21 days online. I'm like, go crazy gangbusters. Let's go. And he got it. He's a phenomenal artist. And now he's drawing like
digital portraits.
Digital portraits of people. He got his first clients, right? The kid's just out there hustling. And when you have a goal, when you have something big you're going after, man, you get things done. It's really cool.
So, but the idea is here, like we had to learn this in our own family. We couldn't just have some clear-cut rule of like, you can only be on the device for this long or that. Like when they're younger, that works. But as they get older and you're trying to teach them to be autonomous and to make good decisions and to have purpose and direction, it's not clear cut like that because it depends on what's behind it.
Right. Is it creation or consumption? If they have the right understanding,
then they're creating. And that's fine. If they're online creating and they're on their device creating, that's great. So, but if they're not, that's when it's a problem because then they're on another path that's leading to a totally different outcome. So the key to solving that problem is to help them get a vision of a noble aim and a purpose in life. And then they can choose on their own how they're going to spend their time. when they understand the principles, which ties in perfectly to principles and practices, which is one of the themes for tonight.
Yeah. We may not ever get to it
I
though,
know,
because there's so
seriously.
many great things to talk about. Look, we got to keep going here. So another thing, still struggling with scarcity and money stuff.
Mhm.
That comes up a lot. In fact, I would say, wouldn't you guys agree? That's probably the default, that most of us come with some scarcity programming versus abundance programming. I think most of us have more scarcity than abundance. And in anything with this, you guys have heard me say this, I'm a total bibliophile, but I want whatever you're
Well-
struggling with.
We talked about this exact thing in the Money Mastermind last week. You should share that.
Oh yeah. Wait, what did we say? Because I was going to say something awesome.
We'll say that and I'll tell you if that's what I'm thinking.
So here's what I want you to do. Every one of you, if you have something that you just need to master,
Or that you're struggling with.
or you're
like
struggling
scarcity.
with, so if scarcity is just this thing and money stuff, it's just been this problem and it has been for, months or years, and you're like, I'm done with this. I want to invite you. It depends on who I'm talking to. Some of you don't like challenges. Some of you like invitations.
Pick
So
your word.
I'm inviting those who want to be invited. I'm challenging those who want to be challenged. But all of you, I want you to grab a great book. I'm not joking here. And you read from that thing every single day, just
On
a little
that
bit
topic.
on that topic, just a little bit. Grab a classic. It can be 5 to 10 minutes, but
One page.
please, like all my heart here, you read a page or two from that book every single day until that is no longer a problem in your life. So Miriam, grab the book, The Science of Getting Rich,
Or Think and Grow Rich.
or Think and Grow Rich.
Which that's what we talked about in our Money Mastermind. He challenged
We
and
brought
invited them all.
we brought both of those books with us on this trip. We travel with those books. Read from good books every single day until it is no longer an issue in your life. It's the same with health. It's the same with parenting, with marriage. If your marriage has just felt flat, read from a great marriage book every single day until your marriage is totally transformed.
Mhm.
Are you catching what I'm throwing? Like, take it seriously. Stop persisting in your suffering. Let go of it.
There is an end to the
There's an end.
suffering.
But it has to start here. And when we fill our minds every single day, and you're like, I know you might be thinking, oh, what's 5 minutes going to do? Blah, blah, blah. I promise it is unbelievable what the transformation it creates in your life. I did that in my own life with my thinking. I read As a Man Thinketh every single day for over 2 years, and I was socially retarded. And so I read from How to Win
That's not a
Friends.
joke.
That is not a joke. That's not an exaggeration either. I read from How to Win Friends and Influence People every single day for over 2 years until it just became a part of who I am. Now I can talk to anyone, anywhere, and make them feel awkward. Yay!
Is that a good thing? Just kidding.
You with me? Take it seriously. If something's off, woo,
Obsess about it. We talked about
get
obsession.
obsessed. Let's go. Okay. Keep going. Da, 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 da. Whoa, you guys put all kinds of cool stuff in here. Okay, Mindy says, feeling like I love all the parts of my life, but there are times that I don't know what to cut out so that I can accomplish some of my other goals. Maybe I just have too many goals. Ha 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 ha. You're in the right group here of all these
Yeah.
high achieving, ambitious people. You guys
Let's
are all
talk about that in
just
just a minute
driven.
because there was a couple more comments related to reading, I think.
Okay. Yeah, currently reading them
Okay,
again
good.
every day. Fantastic,
Good.
Miriam. Keep that up.
Then you're on the
It'll
path.
transform you. Think and Grow Rich just arrived from Amazon. Yeah, Mary. Just finished Les Miserables, the best book ever written. 1,462 pages of pure awesome sauce. Just saying. Wow. Yes, learning mercy and forgiveness. Yes, yes, yes. There's so much to master. Yeah, you're right. And so pick the most important
That's
thing.
why it's so exciting. You have a whole lifetime to master so many things.
But you start with the thing that will make the biggest difference in your life. Okay, should we keep going with this? So we
Well,
maybe
yeah.
get
Do
through
we
it?
want to address? I know. Do we want to address that? The
Too many
what
goals?
to cut out? Because
Yeah.
maybe that ties
So
in here
here's
too.
something I did, and I do this with my coaching clients too, because as you can imagine, my coaching clients are also ambitious people and highly driven, highly successful. What we always do is say, okay, what is it you want most in life? Napoleon Hill calls it your major definite purpose. What
Jordan
are the
Peterson calls it your noble aim.
what are the few things you want more than anything else? And you kind of, what that does is it kind of makes you focus in on some things. And then you have to have the discipline that all the stuff that's on around the outer edges can go.
Now, if it's still stuff that has to be done, then you outsource it.
And you
And-
don't want to be just one-sided either. We become lopsided. There's actually this piece of where you get this balance. Remember, we've talked about the wheel of life, you guys, you know all this. And every month you should have some hobbies and some recreation and some work, and you have this balance. So fit it in there. Well, not too much of it, but fit in.
This is not
This
a
is
good
so hard.
answer.
I know it's so hard.
This is a terrible answer.
But you get what I'm saying? Like, that's why life is challenging, people. If it were easy, everyone would be doing it. Oh,
I
man.
think one thing though that has made a big difference for me, because I understand this, I have a lot of things I want to do, want to accomplish, have to do. You have to learn how to get help. Outsourcing. Okay. I call it outsourcing, but outsourcing doesn't have to be only hiring people or, like employees. For me, that's been, for sure getting more help in the house, even while we're traveling. Like I tell the kids, I am not cooking and I'm not cleaning. Like that's your guys' job. Because I do the marketing and I do the website and I do the emailing and I do all these other things. It pays for them to,
And she does the modeling. Like, hey, baby.
So there's a lot of things I do. I don't know what to say to that. There's a lot of things that I do that they can't do, and they get that. So for me, when it comes down to cutting things out, I cut out the things that other people can do. I think that's a good standard to go by. If somebody else can do it, like laundry, I cut that out. But if there's something nobody else can do but me, like my Instagram marketing, right? I do that. Or my writing, or my
Or being a wife.
exercising.
or
Nobody
being a-
else can exercise for me, right?
And-
So those are the things I can't cut out.
And nobody else can be a mom to our children.
Right.
But-
But plenty
but
of other
somebody
people
else-
can mow the lawn or
Sweep
go
the
grocery
floor.
shopping, or although in Mexico we have to do our own grocery shopping now.
Curses.
But it's more like an adventure.
Okay, I feel like I need to emphasize this because I know some of
We've
you.
talked about this a lot,
I
actually.
know, but I if we had you raise your hands, I know there's some of you who are still trying to do everything.
All the laundry, all the cooking, all the meals, all the
Yeah, and you're not
dishes, all
outsourcing
the
because you're like, no, I'm super mom, and that's the expectation that I'm supposed to be able to do everything. It's just not
And
realistic.
we've noticed this having traveled abroad. There's some sort of social stigma in the United States against hiring people to
Help you.
do your work for you. Like it's like a negative thing. And I'm like, why? What? Like, that's wrong. Because in other countries, not even countries that can afford to hire help, they have help. They live in more of an extended family circumstance, and they've got aunts and uncles and cousins, and everybody's helping out. It's not just one woman in her kingdom trying to do everything, which is like what it is like in America. One queen and she has to do it all. That's not actually, like, as far as the history of the world goes, that's not normal. That's unique and new. So you have to start thinking of it. It's not a bad thing to get help.
Amen.
Amen.
Do it, people. Do it. Okay. A book recommendation for nutrition. What's that one? The healthy nutrition something. Nourishing Traditions. Nourishing Traditions is
yes.
excellent. And Dr. Daniel Amen did the Brain Warriors Way and the Brain Warriors Way
And there's
cookbook. They're
one
excellent.
called the Bulletproof Diet.
Bulletproof
Yeah.
Diet. And you don't have to embrace everything they say, but you know what you could do every morning? Those of you who want more better nutrition, you could write your own book every morning. Wake up and write, I eat more vegetables. And it's just, it's so good. Okay, let's keep going. Because I'm so excited to get to the rest of this question here. I'm gonna have to go fast. So, for example, I had a big goal of running my next 5K Thanksgiving 2021 in 30 minutes. The one I just did in 2020, which was a huge deal for me to accomplish it all, which congratulations, that's absolutely fantastic. I did it in over 35 minutes. So it's a huge goal for me to strive for. I felt great when I wrote it, and then a few weeks later, I got injured. I'm trying to use it as an opportunity to level up, and I believe I'm getting stronger, and I will get back to full running again, right? A version of full running. But now I'm feeling like 30 minutes on Thanksgiving is just not very realistic. It just makes me want to give up. Is it okay to redefine a goal as something like a minute faster than my last 5K, then 5 minutes faster? I feel like I'm giving up. But at the same time, if I stick to this big goal when I'm not at my best physically and I do actually give up, then I'm really giving up, right? Okay.
Okay, so first of all, before you say
So
what you want to
good.
say, because I know what you're going to say because we talked about it. I want to say this. Yes, it's totally, before Greg gets to say, I'm going to say it's totally fine to redefine your goals. Because here's what happens. Here's how we move through life and toward our noble aim. We set a noble aim and we start moving forward. And then because we're imperfect people without perfect vision, we say, oh, wait a second, I was off there. And so we make adjustments, right? And that's actually how the process works. And it continues to work like that. It always works like that. It's always worked like that for us. You move forward and then you see more clearly, or you learn new information and you make adjustments to your goals. Okay. So redefining your goals based on new information is not giving up. It's making more intelligent decisions. That's what I have to say. Now you can jump into the other side of the coin.
The other side of this coin. Are you ready for this? Heather, are you ready for this? I read your email. I'm like, oh no, that girl could do that in 6 weeks.
And I said,
6 weeks.
let's tell
Yep.
No, because after
Like,
I wrote that,
No.
like the next day, my good foot got injured.
Okay. So yeah, aside from injury, all injuries aside. So if you're injured, right? So everyone listen, when there's injury pain and then there's like fatigue pain. If it's injury pain, stop and do something else. So there's no way you could do it right now because your foot's injured. So you want healing, right? But aside from that, if you're healing and healthy, if I were your personal trainer, like we lived nearby and I was your personal trainer, without you hating me and suffering and me tying you to the bumper and dragging you down the road, like legit, you could do it. You could drop 5 minutes off in like a 6-week program. But we're going to back up. I think once you're healthy, once you're healed, and you can do cross training, you even said that in your message, you can do cross training. I wholeheartedly believe, and I know you're like, it was so hard, but with some consistency and some training, I totally believe in an enjoyable way, you could do that in 12 weeks. I really do. And I know in your mind, you're like, by Thanksgiving, maybe in 10 years from now, Thanksgiving. I know that's what you're thinking, right? Because when we go to face goals, we're like, because we see ourselves as we are. And you're like, how can I possibly do that? That but just about killed me. And we forget how much progress we can make, that in 3 weeks from now, you're like, dude, I'm faster. And then 3 weeks from that, you're like, I'm even faster now. And we kind of underestimate in a 12-week period how much we can improve and grow.
Okay, so this is what I'm going to add to this, because we actually talked about this after reading this email. And
yeah, it was so fun. We had this fun conversation. Like, no, she can do it.
Because here's what happens to most of us, and this is normal. We set these big goals for ourselves, and because they are so big to us, we feel like it has to take a long time to achieve them. But that's not actually true. It doesn't take a long time to achieve big goals, what it takes is a lot of effort to achieve big goals. Now, there's actually a benefit, and there's an entire book about this. So this isn't just like some crazy idea that Greg came up with. There's a book that talks about how when we set a big goal, but we give it a shorter deadline, we actually achieve them, and we're more likely to achieve them than with the longer deadline. Because it's something about our psychology. One, it seems really big. So it seems like, oh, I don't know if I could ever do that. It's so big. Two, because it's so far away, we feel like we have more time. And so we tend to procrastinate, and we don't make every day count as much as it would, or we would make it count if we had a shorter deadline. So this book that I'm referring to, it's actually called The 12-Week Year, and it's used for business specifically, but he has all the science behind when you set a big goal, but you give it like a 12-week deadline, every single day counts, right? Every single week counts. You put more focus, you put more energy, you put more attention into getting that thing done, and you're able to accomplish it shorter. Now, we're giving you this perspective. We're not saying you have to do it like that. Like, that's not what we're trying to say.
Especially not injured, like get healed.
But what we are trying to say is that that's the principle behind it. You have more power to achieve your big goals and dreams than you think you do, and in a shorter amount of time than you think you do.
That's true for all of us. What were you going to say, Heather?
I was just gonna say the injury part is what's so frustrating for me, because like I have a physical therapy app. Like, I've been a good girl, and like I wrote you that email, and then Monday I went out and I felt great, probably because I had the weekend recover. Maybe it's possible. And I increased my time, like the time that I was going to run by like 5 seconds each interval, and like halfway through the pain just flared, and then I had to walk, and then it was like I ended up not making any progress at all, and actually setting myself back, because then I had to rest longer again. It was like, I'd rather just do something else at this point, because I really love running, because I love just being able to do exercise and be outside and have my body be the only equipment I need. But the real main goal is to be fit and healthy and be able to do stuff with my family, and not just be like the old mom that's always broken. So if like this is hurting me, I mean, as much as I want to do it, maybe I do focus on some other exercise. I don't know. And that's where it's like, am I being stupid, like giving up, or am I not being stupid and really focusing on just being healthy and getting stronger, even if it's not the specific way I wanted to do it?
Yes,
Yeah.
good thoughts. I think you're spot on there.
Agreed.
And I can agree. I injured my toe about a year and a half ago. I dislocated it while I was wrestling barefoot. Yowzers, it was a doozy. And so I couldn't run. I was with you. I'm like, oh, I want to run. So I rest, and I wore a little boot for a few weeks. And I'm like, I'm good. And I went out for a run, and I was limping back like, dang it. And I was weeks out again. So finally I stopped doing that, and I started riding my bike. And I know you want to be equipment free, but I'm like, if I can cross train here, and we did some rowing, we bought kayaks, and we got some other things. And just like, even if you just biked for 6 weeks and let your foot just completely heal, I don't know if it'll take that long or what, but you're still training. You're still being the active mom. You're still being healthy. You're still doing your cardio, still working on your legs. And then once the foot's okay, then you lean back into it, and then you can probably still hit your goals.
Yeah, I think it's totally wise to take new information into consideration. So at this point, healing is the goal. And once you heal, then you can reevaluate. But whether you want to achieve that goal or not still. But I think the important thing to remember is that even after healing, it's still possible for you to reach your goal by the date you have selected. Because once you are in a healthy place, right? Because again, the health is the first priority. It's possible to reach your goals faster than you realize.
In fact, there's a book I read that you can go from 0 to a marathon in 12 weeks. in a healthy way. Yeah, crazy, huh? And what you do is you every mile you walk. And this was like one of the best
Kind of going back to the stress recovery.
best running coaches in the world. And he says every mile you just stop and walk. And he trains you and gives you a schedule, and you can go from 0 to the marathon in 12 weeks. So it's possible. The human body's amazing, you guys. We can create total transformations. So I mean, that's our message for all of you. Whatever your goal is, whatever your target is, lean into this stuff and be excited and believe. Don't be overwhelmed. Don't be stressed. It doesn't have to be chaotic and crazy, but this persistent focus of like, this is where I'm going, man, you will move mountains. It's amazing and inspiring. So cool. Oh man.
Oh, the marathon book.
Yeah, I can't remember, Chanel. Do you know what you'd all love though? It's a book called Born to Run. Yeah, that's good. And actually, there was a tribe just north of us here, the Taumara Indians. They would go out running as a village, and they'd go out and run for 75 miles. The whole village was like, dude, let's put in 75 miles. Like, that was great. And they're running on these teeny little sandals called huaraches. And so that's how I learned about minimalist feet, shoes and stuff. And so I run in my little sandals and things. It's amazing. Okay. All right. What should I think? Grow rich.
Science
Okay,
Green
just
Ridge.
catching all. Awesome. All right, let's do. Any other questions? Let's do some coaching. Anybody else have some specific questions you want to target? Come on. Here's your chance. Personal coaching.
I have one, but I don't want to keep hogging.
Well, let's see.
ahead.
I saw Chanel raise your hand. So let's have Chanel and then we'll come back to you, Heather. That's fine.
I just have, so we are going to be moving back into our house in the next few weeks. And it's still newly renovated, so it's all very exciting. But my question is, I really want to be, it's a really good opportunity because we're living with my mum at the moment and we don't have any specific time we have to move back. So I want to make the most of the opportunity to be sure that I'm setting up our environment, like our house that we're going to be living in, with the right kind of systems and practical things that is going to help our life as a family, flow and do what we want it to do. So my question is, how do I know what are the most important systems to be looking at, and then how do I sort of go from there to implement them and set up the environment to help us, if that makes sense?
Yes. Great question.
Awesome. Yes, that's a fantastic question. So the first thing I think about is what our personal family culture is and what's important to us and what kind of experiences we want to have in our home.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Okay.
So, for us, music's important. So we have like a music area, and then of course reading is important. So we have bookshelves and books, and then food is important, right? So we've got the whole kitchen set up with, the right kind of food, of course. And then it's just a matter of thinking through, like, this is the thing with being organized. I love this phrase that I heard from Stephen R. Covey years ago. He says, simplicity on the far side of complexity. Like, things become simple, more simple in our life when we go through the complexity first, right? And that seems kind of confusing and counterintuitive, but it's this idea of, if you are able to break things down into their smallest parts, so to say, say preparing meals, you break it down into its smallest part. Like, what does it take to prepare a meal? And you think about each aspect of that and how you can simplify it and make it easier and smoother, and who's going to handle it and all those types of things. Then once you've gone through that process, once you've gone through the complexity, then you actually come back to simplicity that flows, right? So that's another thing that seems overwhelming, to think about your family life and all the things you want to do and all the things you have to do, and thinking about every part of it. But I promise you, when you go through that process, because I've done that many times, that you actually create this simplicity in your life that's really beautiful and almost magical sometimes, right? Where it helps life flow so much easier because you're able to break that down and then put it back together. So I don't know like how to give you specific things per se, because it depends on your family and your house.
Do you have any tips on how to like I'm not very good at thinking ahead and doing that process of thinking, okay, this is something that happens every day. How can I make it easier? Like, and think through it. I struggle. I'm like, well, and then it's like too hard. And I'm like, I'll just deal with it when I'll fix it when we get to it. But like, obviously that never works. You know, every time you're like, why didn't I think of this yesterday? I find it hard to think, how can I help my future self?
Yeah.
So do you have any tips on that actual process?
Yeah, sometimes that's how you do it. That's how I've done it sometimes, where I try to think ahead and I'm like, I don't know. And then I get to the moment and I'm like, oh gosh. And so in the moment when it's happening, even if it's kind of chaotic or whatever, and I'm trying to just get things done, I'll still kind of be aware of what's going on. Oh, this needs to happen and that needs to happen. And oh, this would be helpful. And then maybe I'll take some notes later or write it down or something. And so then after the fact, I'll kind of sit down and think about what happened. And then I can use that in order to create a process or a system after having gone through it. So you're right. You don't necessarily have to always pre-plan everything, because I don't think we can think about everything until we've gone through it. But once we have gone through it, then we're more aware. Now we can think, it's still helpful to think about it ahead of time as much as possible, but yeah, we won't be able to pick up on everything. We won't know everything. And so then we just have to have awareness going into it to pay attention to the details, right? The complexity that's happening in the moment, and think about, okay, how can I simplify what's going on here?
And here's something I would do, and we've done this before. It's beginning with the end in mind. What experience do you want? People always ask us, how do you know where to go travel? How do you guys choose the world's so big? And I say, how do you know how do you pick a place to go? And Rachel and I, we've always said, well, what experience do we want to have?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do we want our family to experience or learn? Then we start
Like,
looking for that.
The very first time we started to travel, we decided to do it because we wanted our kids to learn Spanish. That was like one of our main motivations, and to do like humanitarian work. So based on that, it was easy to decide, basically, because we're like Spanish speaking countries, right? So our choices were limited. So yeah, we've always gone off of that. What's the experience we want to have?
So then you take that, and you might mentally, and you guys, this is true for everybody, so don't zone out here. You might mentally right now, or even physically, walk through and go through each room in your house and say, what do we want our family to experience in this room?
Mm-hmm.
And so we might take like a playroom. We've done this before. You take a playroom or a family room, and you're like, traditionally it's just cluttered like crazy. So we're like, how can we strategize around this? And one of the things we did, we're like, well, let's have less stuff. So we'd gather up like half of the kids' toys and put it away in a locked closet. And they had less toys, and so it was less cluttered. And then when they got old with those, we'd take them and we'd swap them. And they're like, new toys, this is amazing. And we'd bring it back out, and it was less stuff, and it was easy. So instead of the two of us like constantly cleaning up tons of stuff, we had a lot less stuff. A family room. What do you want your main living room to be like? We're like, we don't want a big screen TV as the main focus of our family room. We want bookshelves. So we're going to bring books in here. We're going to put some nice books up here and some kid books on the bottom, right? Kid books on the bottoms where they can see them, and the older books at the top. And what else we want? We want to have some books we read together by the fireplace, and let's get some chairs and couches and arrange it so we're all facing each other. So we thought through, like, what do I want to experience here? What do I want to feel here? How do we want this gathering to be? I built this kitchen table, big square kitchen table with benches that would fit all of us and friends. And we'd all sit around looking at each other and we'd have these amazing devotionals and discussions, right? And these great meals. We were strategic. What does this experience want? We both designed our offices. How do I want the office to feel? How do I want the office to function? Where do I
Mhm.
want my books? Where do I want my desk?
Well,
Where do I
in
want my
fact,
backdrop? How do I want this to move and flow? And just using your creative imagination to see it and kind of play it out. See yourself a day in the life of what's going on here,
or
then-
pay attention in the moment
and then be proactive.
of how you would improve what's happening, right? And so essentially form follows function. Like the systems follow the experience you're trying to create. So you have to decide what the experience is first before you can identify what the systems are that you need to implement or create in order to create those experiences. So
Yeah.
very often it just requires the being in the moment and trying to figure out how to simplify the complexity that's happening. Hopefully that
Oh, you guys, please, everyone, please do this. Just, you don't have to do it all at once, but do it with your yard. What do you want the experience in your yard to be? And set up your backyard and your front yard that way. Do it in your garage. When you hit the garage button, what do you want your experience to be? Most of you open, you're like, I can't even pull in. There's so much crap in there. It's a crazy storage unit. I can't find anything. Why do we have all this stuff? And it's a totally different experience versus you hit it and it opens and it's clean. The floor's clean. There's all these beautiful closed shelves and storage cupboards, and you pull in and there's like tons of room, and you get out and you're like, oh, this is amazing. We had a garage like that in one of the houses. We loved that house. The kids still, do you remember that garage? They love it, right? What experience do you want to have? And plan that. What do you want your car to look like? Right? We've had cars that looked like the
pile of trash.
yeah, well, just like when the kids eat food in there, you're like, I found some fries from 17 years ago in here. Like, this is horrible, right? And so you're like, no food in this car, right? And so just think through, like, what do you want the experience and feeling to be? Then get strategic about each place. Okay, I'm gonna throw this out. Ready? I got so much. This is so
You
good.
do.
I gotta keep going. All of you, your master bedroom should be like this amazing place where you love to be. It is not your office. It is not your entertainment room. It's for two things that start with S, and it should be awesome. So everything else, man, don't pile stuff on your bed. It's not your library. It's not like
Maybe a smaller
your
room.
tax room. You can have a couple books in there if you want to read or something. It should be decorated and lovely, and like you go in, you're like, oh, I love it here. It should feel exciting and lovey and comfortable and safe. And
And
you see what I'm saying? Be strategic about that room.
we've talked about this before, but we like to emphasize this because I think it's very important when we can learn to make our outer environment reflect our inner desires, right? Then you're on the path to achieving the things that you want. Your outer environment is a reflection of what's going on here. So if you look around and you're not quite sure you like what you see, start changing it here and then act that out in your space. Hopefully that answered your question in a very long way.
That was great. Thank you. And I love how you always give such in-depth answers. It's great. Thank you.
Okay.
You guys, you're so nice
You're so patient.
to be here
with
while
our
we
ramblings.
rambling. Like, I've read 47 books on this and I want to share everything I've ever learned. Oh man.
Okay.
Okay.
Heather.
Another question. Heather,
Another
go ahead.
question.
Okay, so basically how to parent without criticizing or punishing. And I have a specific example that really was bothering me yesterday and today. My daughter's an avid reader, yay, but she's started just reading instead of doing things like homework or getting ready for the day. And so I yell and take the book away, which kills part of my soul. And I don't know how to,
I
How to
hate
fix it.
myself for doing this. Love it. Well, yes, yay on the reading. That's fantastic. Love that. Do you want to go or you want me to go?
You can go, you
Okay.
can start, but
So first off, praise. Whenever your kids are doing something
Pays?
good, praise and praise. Like we pay our kids to read. I mean, we reward them. Just praise, right? And make sure that's just. I was doing some coaching today with some parents. I'm like, make sure it's obvious. Sometimes we have to be like blatantly obvious or even over obvious for our kids because we think they'll pick up on things that they don't pick up on. And then they pick up on the other things we hope they didn't pick up on. Like, go, you picked up on the wrong thing.
well,
But
because
make it obvious how proud you are, how excited. That's just amazing, fantastic. I want you to keep reading. That's the best thing ever.
because I want to give this a little bit of context here. The only way to reduce criticizing and the nagging and all the other stuff is to, like we've talked about with the pyramid idea, is you have to increase your deposits in the emotional bank account with your kids, which we can expound on that a little bit, and increase the effort that goes into helping things go right so that you're dealing less with things that are going wrong. Because the reason we feel like we have to criticize or get upset or punish or all these other things is because something's going wrong. Like something that, shouldn't be happening is happening. And so we're trying to deal with fixing that issue. But what we often don't realize, which this actually ties into the principles and practices thing, what we don't realize is that the real solution is not to fix what's going wrong in the moment, even though that's right in front of our face. It's the focus. We're like, this is going wrong. I have to do something about this. We have to be able to look past that and see that the real solution to fixing that is to invest more into helping things go right. So that's why he's talking about the praising and the noticing the positive things, because the more we do that, then the less things go wrong and the less criticizing or negative punishing or all of these other things, the less we have to do those things because of the positive things are going right. So for example, whenever I notice something that's happening with one of my kids and I'm like, gosh, that's got to stop. I'm like, I'm done with that thing. Now the approach I take is I think, okay, well, what's causing that behavior? Right? What is causing them to ignore me or to not listen to me or not help out or not do the things I want them to do?
It's their noise canceling headphones.
It's the noise canceling headphones.
They can't hear a thing when we're yelling across the room. Hey, kid, I'm dying. And they're like, oh, sorry, I didn't hear, Dad.
But I think about, I have to pay attention and think about what is causing it. And I often realize that it's something maybe I'm not doing. Maybe I'm not giving them enough attention. Maybe I'm not.
You see how, though, she's not reacting in the moment, she's thinking first.
Yeah. And in fact,
It's
this is
the
the
pause
strategy I
between-
now take.
pause between
I
action.
very rarely, unless it's something that has to be done, I very rarely will in the moment go in at them because I know that that's not going to work. And I have to think bigger picture about the solution to this. And I have to think, what's the cause to this behavior issue? And then I have to think about, what am I not doing to help them understand why they need to, respond to me when I'm asking them something, or why they need to help out, or why they need to, because I've learned that kids, even young kids, like even my 6-year-old, when they have understanding about something, when they know the why
So easy.
behind something, it's so easy to get them to help out or to respond because they understand the why behind it. And they also understand that this is a mutual relationship we have. I do things for you and you do things for me. And that's how we have this relationship together. But if I'm doing, and we've had these conversations, if it's to that point, like we'll have these conversations of like, hey, I do all this stuff and I feel this way when you don't help out or you don't respond or you don't listen. I feel like you take me for granted or you don't appreciate or or all of these other things. We talk through that. And then when they have that understanding, then in the moment, I can say, hey, I really need you. I know you're enjoying your book. I love that you love to read, but you know what? I really need you to do this thing. It should take you, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Then you can go back to your reading, but I need your help with this right now. And you explain it to them in a way that they understand it, they get it, and they, because of the previous deposits that you've made in the relationship with them, because of the previous conversations you've had that help them have understanding, they say, okay, yeah, I'll do that. The other thing I've learned too, sorry, I'm going to end with this. Because I do this with adults, like as adults we'll do this. I'll ask Greg to do something, but I don't expect him to literally hop up the very second I ask him to do it and do it right then. That's actually kind of disrespectful for an adult. Like I know he's in the middle of doing something, and I respect him enough to know that he's going to finish doing that, and then we'll do what I've asked him. So I've learned to do the same thing with my kids. I'll ask them to do something, but I don't expect them to do it that second.
Because they're often deeply engrossed in their thing.
Mhm.
So we give them a little space there to, hey, when you're done with this chapter, would you come help with this? And here's why. And man, when
Well-
we show them that kind of respect, it's huge. Go for it.
That's why it kind of threw me off, because yesterday it was the homework and this morning it was the morning routine, and like these aren't new things, and those are the systems that are in place. You do your homework and then you get free time. You get ready for the day. School starts at 7:30. Whatever time you have between waking up at 6 and getting your stuff done till 7:30, you can do whatever you want pretty much. So like she has the opportunity to read, and I even talked to her about it, kind of gently reminding her, even though I really shouldn't have to, and she just read anyway. And I was like, what happened? I don't know. It's kind of out of the blue, really.
Yep. I got some stuff. So yeah,
I'll go after you.
so one thing I've learned is parents say, I shouldn't have to remind you, and yet we always have to remind our kids.
I
Oh
think
my
that
goodness.
that's something that goes on and on and on and
through
on.
through generations of time. I've told you 10,000. Yep. So it might be helpful. This is going to sound simple or elementary, you guys. It's a game changer when you write expectations up on a chart on a wall. I know that seems elementary. I know you're like, she knows her schedule. But when it's right there, like I promise, it seems so simple. It's true for us too, isn't it? You know your schedule, you know what you're supposed to do, but when we each have a little habit tracker, a little checklist, we do better. And so have that up there, have the expectations. And then if it happens in situations like that, here's what I would do personally. And we can relate to this because we have this problem. Our kids will get in their books or their audiobooks and they're gone. Like they're in another world. And I'll constantly tell them like, hey, will you come back to this life? They're like, but the other one's so fun. I'm like, yeah, you're in fantasy land. Come on back. And so here's the most effective way, right? Sit down, they're reading, and I'll sit next to them and rub in, and then they're reading something, and then they'll stop and look over like, what? And I'm like, tell me about it. What's this? This is awesome and cool. Oh, that's great. That's so fun. I love that you're reading. And I'll engage with them for a minute, right? This is an ideal situation, right? And engage with them. They're talking like, it's so cool. And I'm like, hey, man, the kitchen's looking pretty rough. And mom's got some things got to do. I need to work so I can pay for your books. Would it be okay when you finish this paragraph or page or this chapter? Would you mind just taking 10 or 15 minutes and just knocking out your stuff and getting those first things done that we talked about before you go back? And when I approach it like that, almost always they're like, yeah, I'll do it. And they usually do. And if I have to go back and remind them, then I'll do something playful. I'll jump on top of them or something and like, I'm going to squish you. I'm going to beat you with your book. Let's go. And I'm being playful, but I'm like, hey, I'm literally going to take this book from you and smack it on your butt. Let's go. And when I approach it that way, then I don't feel bad. They don't feel bad. I haven't burned any bridges, but I've made it clear, like, that's awesome, but it's fun. And this also needs to happen. It can't just be neglected. And usually when they can wrap their minds around, they're like, yeah, you're right. Okay, I'll
Well,
go.
and in the case like this, when you have this clear routine and these clear expectations, I've often seen that when they're not doing that, even if they have been doing it before, there may just be something there that you kind of have to, I don't know, work through or figure out. Like maybe they're just really into the book for one thing, or maybe they're
Ooh,
avoiding something, or
yeah,
maybe
there might be a
there's
project with
something they
school,
don't want to
something
deal
in
with,
math
or
they're
maybe
struggling
there's
with.
like there's always underlying issues. That's what I've always realized. It, like, whatever the thing is, it's never just the thing. So the behavior itself is not the issue, it's what's causing the behavior that's the issue. So when you want to solve the issue, you can't focus just on the behavior. You can't focus on trying to change behavior, because that doesn't work. You have to focus on changing whatever's going on in here. And once you do that, then the behavior that you want comes out naturally, because you address the underlying issues. So that would
Like,
be,
who here has escaped into a book or something else because you were avoiding something you didn't
or
want to do?
Netflix, or
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Me too. And
our
I'm
kids
like,
do the same
and
thing.
I'm like, no, I'm just reading. And like the really back mind, I'm like, I just don't want to do that thing. And so, I got to read here. And so, and kids do it too.
Mhm.
And they're like, I'm so sick of school and I'm so sick of that stupid assignment. And so they're
Yeah,
reading and
maybe
they're like,
they're
hey,
stressed, maybe
what's up?
they're overwhelmed, maybe they're dealing with something,
maybe somebody said
something's
something
going
mean.
on.
And so they're just, boom, they're not getting ready in the day. You're like, what's up? And
Yeah.
there could be something there.
It was probably me that said something mean because she's homeschooled.
She's like, I'm having a hard time with my teacher.
Exactly.
Again, for all of us though, across the board, when we pause, like Rachel says, don't react in the moment, pause, just kind of think upstream and like, how would I approach this as my best self? And then you go in and
and look for the root cause.
you can actually correct your children and discipline them and make deposits simultaneously instead of
and have it be a deposit.
burn bridges and make withdrawals. And you feel better and they feel better and the
Mhm.
problem gets better. Instead of going in like, I'm gonna wring your neck and take your stuff and you're grounded for the rest of your life. And then I hate you, you're the worst mom on earth. And then it just, it gets ugly and crazy. So good, great stuff there. Good stuff. Let's see, Shannon,
Someone has a hand
got a
up.
hand up.
Shannon have a hand up?
Yeah.
And then is that the question, Stephanie?
Sorry, it took me a minute to unmute myself. So I love what you're saying about helping your kids, but I have a 15-year-old that when I try to talk to him and ask what's going on, he just shuts down. He won't talk at all. And we'll sit there for over an hour just waiting for him to say something and asking questions and, trying to figure it out. And he just sits there.
Okay, man, it's tough. So my heart goes out to you and to all of you who've experienced that. That is tough and it feels so frustrating, especially because you're just filled with love and compassion and you connect with these kids and they're just like nothing. They won't give you a thing. I can relate to this, especially. I've had the privilege of working with youth for literally over 2 decades. And you can imagine that in those 2 decades of working with thousands of youth, I've come across some kids that they put up the Great Wall of China and then armed guards, and they are not letting anyone in.
Yeah.
And so the way we have to do that, especially if you try something, you're like, hey, let's sit down and talk. We got to find out what's going on. And just boom, he just sits there and won't say a thing. Then you're like, okay, this approach is not working. And with youth, and it works with adults too. With youth, it's really good to, I'm going to mute you for a second. There's some background noise. You can unmute yourself again. With youth, you got to be like sneaky. Like, we're going to sneak around this corner. And because so I've done this a lot. So I try to engage and there's nothing. And they're hardened. Then I kind of joke and play and ask, nothing. I'm like, oh yeah, it's on now. It's on now. And I'm finding the most creative way to it's called building rapport. So you got to try to build rapport first. So if I try to kind of go in, like we're trying to get inside, right? If I'm trying to go inside and there's the fortress and I try it different ways, nothing, then I've got to back way out and say, I'm not trying to get inside. The only thing I'm going to do now is try to build rapport. I'm going to try to rebuild a relationship. And so what I would do is we'd go do something fun. We'd go do something cool. And it's usually their choice. Like, hey, and so instead of, hey, let's have a talk, because the traditional approach is, son, let's, I'd like to talk to you. And they're like,
Well,
Wow.
we laugh about this because our kids will do that all the time. We'll be like, hey guys, we want to talk. And it doesn't matter if it's positive, negative, whatever. They're just like, oh gosh, you want to have a talk? Like there's this automatic resistance. I think we do
To
with
the word talk.
spouses too. Like, babe, we need to
hey,
talk.
can I
And
talk to
you're
you for a
like,
second?
"Oh,
You're like, what did I
gosh,
do now?
what?"
Gosh, did you wreck my van again? Rachel took my brand new awesome van and backed it into a tree.
Somebody had to do it.
What's
Might
done
as
is
well be me.
what's done is done. There is a camera,
Anyways.
but she wasn't looking at camera. She had music on, was dancing and
we were
talking,
having
and they were
fun.
having a blast and Kong.
Anyways, so we had to have a talk about that. Just kidding. We didn't. So yeah, so
If you say I want to have a talk, it doesn't work. So you're just like, hey, let's go do something. What do you want to do?
well, it's interesting because here's the thing that happens because our teens can get prideful and stubborn. We can get prideful and stubborn, right? And so often what I've realized with my teen that I can butt heads with, I know the things that teen wants to do that will connect with them, but I usually, not usually, but I don't necessarily want to do them. But I know that if I do, those walls come down, right?
And sometimes you feel like, why would I reward that little stinker?
Right. We feel like
why would
am
I go
gonna
do
that?
something fun with that little thing? He won't even talk to me.
Right. That's what we feel like. But that's only keeping the wall up.
Okay.
So, I know the little things that will work. Sometimes it's literally something like just putting on music. Sometimes that will break down the walls and barriers, especially when they get to choose what we listen to or
A movie. Let them pick a movie or go on a date. You guys ever go on dates with your kids? Take your kids and go on a date. Oh man, game changer. They love that. You go do what they want. You go get, if he has a favorite snack or a food, and you might have to do this consistently for a while until
over time.
you're rebuilding rapport and you're making all these deposits. You're not even trying to get in. You're just making massive, massive deposits. And then watch. I've done this so many times. So I want you to trust the process here. You keep making deposits. You keep making
it's
deposits.
not making a difference or this or that.
And then
It's
one
not
day
working.
you're driving down the road and the kid turns to you and is like,
So
Mom,
ugh.
I have a problem and I've been feeling so guilty about something I did. Boom.
There it is.
Or they're like, hey, somebody did something and it made me feel horrible. Boom. Or sometimes it's like, I've just been feeling so bad about myself. I thought maybe you don't love me anymore. And you're like, I've been telling you how you love. Yeah, but I didn't tell. Like, it'll come out. And so
And it comes out at the worst time, meaning inconvenient for you.
right as you're falling asleep. What?
Yeah. So, because here's the thing: every issue like that, the underlying cause, right? I love to talk about the root causes. Is that there's essentially
Sorry.
a rift in the relationship, right? The reason somebody doesn't want to be vulnerable with you or share with you is because that they don't feel that relationship of trust is there. And the cause of that is, all the other things that have happened before then. So, and all the other things that have happened before then, they weren't quick and instantaneous. Like it's been building. So the only way
There's a lot
to
of
fix
emotional
it,
stacking.
Yeah. The only way to fix it is it's going to take time and consistency and
Stacking in the other direction.
stacking in the other direction. So there's not a quick, easy fix. It's not, there's there's really no hacks out there to parenting. Like, it's just this ongoing like process. It's an ongoing process, right? There's, you can't hack it. You can't just be like, oh yeah, you do this thing and you go. It's an ongoing process that takes consistent, intentional, diplomatic influencing and effort.
But like we said earlier, this won't have to take a ton of time. And again,
Meaning
I'm
quantity of time.
yeah, it won't, it doesn't have to be months or years. It's
And
going
it
to
doesn't
take
necessarily
focused
have to be
strategic
hours and
effort.
hours a day
Right.
either.
So, and I keep saying this to all of you. If you haven't experienced it, you will. If you don't have teenagers yet, they'll grow up. And teens are awesome. I don't mean to bag on teens. They're awesome. But man, they go through this whole learning process of trying to figure things out. So, and I want to give some credibility here. So we'll back this up. I have worked in maximum security juvenile detention centers. Okay, where these kids walk in and the only word they know is the F word, and like scars across their head. And he's like, I don't care what you have to say. I killed my stepdad. And I'm like, whoa, okay, buddy, this one's going to be a doozy. And I reached those kids. Okay. And one of the toughest ones I ever had, he wouldn't talk to anyone, not his peers, not me, not the other men. I mean, nothing. And we had him on a trip. His mom forced him to go on a rock climbing trip with us. And he wouldn't go rock climbing, he wouldn't go rappelling. He just sat there. He was just angry and everything. And I'm like, okay, I got to reach this kid. And I tried everything under the sun. I asked every question I could. I said, I spent time with him, joke with him, nothing. He was just like, will not be cracked. And then he's doing his thing. We're out rappelling, and he sits down on his rock by himself in the middle of the desert. And he reaches in his backpack and he pulls out this little book. And I'm like, I'm in. And so I go booking over. And I'm like, dude, I love books. What is this? And he's like, well, it's just a fantasy. I'm like, I love fantasy. Tell me about it. And he just geeks out. He just unloads and tells me all about these characters in this world and this thing. Every kid will talk. Every person will talk. They'll have their thing. You have to find the thing. And so he just talked and talked and talked. And I just sat there. And he told me all about this fantasy book. And I'm like, is it a series? He's like, yeah, man, I can't wait to finish this so I can get the next one. You know what I did that night? Actually, it was like moments later, I walked over, I called Rachel and like, order this book on Amazon, get it here now. So he got it like the next day from Prime. I stuck it in my backpack and we're going rappelling and the kid's terrified, afraid of heights. So I harness up, I start going over the cliff and I stop and I reach in my pack and I pull it out and I'm like, look what I got, buddy. I'm like, this is yours at the bottom of this cliff. And I put it in my pack. He's like, no way. And so he bombed down the cliff. He came next after me, right? I gave him the books, a huge gift. He hugged me. Like, we're like years later, he was still like, I love you. I love you, Mr. Denny. Like, oh, right? So what I'm saying is like, find the way in, find the thing. Don't worry about like connecting now, make deposits, do things like find out what he loves and do it with him. Like lean into his world.
Now, I do want to add something here. If there's an issue that's potentially really bad, something you have to deal with that's could have severe consequences, right? Like that kind of talking that needs to happen. Then sometimes you do have to use leverage as a parent. And what I mean by leverage is you provide, well, wait, I missed the part of this. I'm not sure how old this kid is.
15.
Okay. So this definitely applies. You provide their living, and that's leverage that sometimes you can use against them in cases when it needs to be used. But that should be reserved for severe cases when you need to talk about difficult issues like, you know,
addictions,
yeah,
depressions,
suicide,
suicidal
like,
thoughts,
yeah,
like
those really bad
violent
negative things that can be dangerous to them. This strategy, you should still use this strategy, But if you have to use the leverage, you need to use the
Yeah,
leverage
yeah,
too. And that
absolutely.
could be, taking away devices. That could be turning off the internet. That could be like, you've got to be creative about what will actually work with them. We've had kids that, we would just take their device away because we're like, we provide this. It's a privilege for you. If you're not willing to have this conversation that needs to be had, if you're not willing to do this thing that needs to be done, I'm sorry, you're going to lose that privilege for now until you're willing to be mature enough to have this conversation that needs to be had. So that's also something else that needs to be taken into consideration.
And here's another piece. When it gets serious, be willing to do whatever you have to do. I remember when our kids were tiny, we were living up in Alaska, and I was like, I will do whatever we have to do if a kid gets in trouble. I will literally go live on Mount Kilimanjaro with a kid. I said that years ago, and I keep saying it, and I would.
And our kids know we're serious.
And
about
they
that
know
too.
we're
We're
dead
like, we will
serious.
take you to live in the jungle.
It's like, if things get ugly, you and me, we live in the jungle. Okay. And if you're good with other indigenous people, if not, it's just us. And I hope you survive. I hope I survive. Like, be willing to go where you have to go. Does this make sense? I want to be serious here, because sometimes things get really serious and really ugly. And youth will sometimes use tools as weapons against themselves in severe self-sabotage. And they may, like, we spend tens of thousands of dollars a year on our kids to make sure they're having transformational experiences that keep them out of trouble.
Which works.
It works.
It develops them in the way we want them to be developed. But we know by doing that, we actually are preventing intervention at a later time, right? Because we've seen enough of the intervention that has to occur with teens to know that investing in prevention is the route we want to take.
Okay.
Yeah,
Please
it
go.
makes sense. He's been this way for a while, but something major has come up, and he's, this is the first issue we've had with him. He's a good kid. He's helpful. He's kind. He's, so it's just hard.
Yes, it is. Oh man, we understand.
And I don't really know what to take away from him, because, he's probably dealing with some depression, and he doesn't have stuff that he enjoys. Like, we even talked to him before Christmas about, what do you want for Christmas? What are you excited about? What can we, help you with? I don't know. Like, he's not excited about anything. So if whatever we took away wouldn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So and you don't have to tell me, but is the issue something he did, a mistake he's made, something he got in trouble with or into?
Yes.
Okay. So I can almost guarantee across the board for all of us, he's going to be feeling, even if he doesn't show it or say it, he's going to be feeling insane amounts of guilt and shame, and often feel very broken. And people who feel broken begin to feel very hopeless.
Yeah.
And so we have to help them feel this love and this rebuild, and that things are okay. And like, we have to be even more exaggerated in love, and it's okay, and belonging, and like, yeah, there was some bad things happen, and like, and the message they all need is like, we can get through this. It'll be all right.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're telling themselves, I'm broken, I'm done, I'm horrible, I'm not even lovable. Why even try now? Why? So he's probably in some really hopeless desperation and depression of like, who cares about Christmas? Who cares about anything?
Yeah.
Right? And it gets really nihilistic. So lots of love, lots of encouragement.
Well,
The thing that you might take away is if the thing is a problem. So
Yeah.
for example, a lot of youth are getting into pornography on cell phones. And I've worked with a lot of youth with porn problems. And man, that can get so destructive so fast. And so in that case, that phone becomes a weapon of self-destruction. And so that has to be either removed or changed or exchanged or controlled. You got to help them. All of us, we have to help our youth. When they start making poor choices, we have to help them make better choices.
Well, just because most addictions work pretty much the same. And so the key to breaking the addiction includes stopping the abuse of the substance or whatever. So in the case of something that's not like a drug or, you know, alcohol or cigarettes, like we would never just be like, oh, hey, here's the cigarettes, but, you know, don't smoke them because, you know, that's not good. You have to break the usage of that thing. And so because the addict doesn't have, well, not even just the addict, this applies, you know, with temptation in general. If you don't have the self discipline or the vision to be able to make good decisions, then certain things have to be put into place to help prevent those mistakes from being made. So yeah, that. But I also want to add another thing that I was thinking of, and that is, especially in a case like this, I think it's also important to look at the biology and the chemistry that's going on. And that means looking at diet for sure.
Well, especially because you said this has been going on for a while. People in my field are working with this all the time. The very first thing we look at for depression, severe depression or anxiety, the very first thing we look at is food. And I know it seems counterintuitive. That's the very first place now clinicians are looking at.
And food is directly connected to biochemistry. So one of the reasons teens, especially, and adults could be making decisions like this is because their biochemistry is literally in a state that they don't know how to be any different. Positive thinking doesn't help. You know, all these other things don't work because the biochemistry is off. So in those cases, you have to fix the chemistry in the body before things can improve. Now, sometimes that includes medication. It definitely includes probably diet and change in food.
Just dropping processed foods and sugars, everybody, and sodas, drop that stuff and watch the changes in behavior.
But very often, okay, in some cases like this, it's hard to get positive change until the biochemistry changes.
Yep.
So all this other stuff doesn't work quite as well because the biochemistry in their body and their brain is so off. So if that's the case, if it's something that seems to have been going on for a while and they're not really excited about anything in life and all of that, I think that's something you really may want to look at is, okay, is there something going on in their body biochemically that needs to be adjusted? It could be supplements, it could be nutrition, it could be medication, it could be a lot of different things, but it's something to definitely look into.
Yeah, I've been working on that since May. And I feel like there's some resentment there because of it, because I've taken away things he likes to eat.
Does he understand why?
Yeah, he understands why. He gets that. You know, and basically what he has said to us is that the only thing he can really control at this point is how he thinks and what he does in his spare time. You know.
So he's feeling very controlled.
That's what it sounds like from that one little comment, but he won't say anything else. You know, and so like we try to talk, like we've talked about, this is why we want to do this, or this is, and we ask questions about what kind of culture do you want in our family, and let's be, you know, decide this together and talk about why it's important and why we want to be healthy and what happens in your body with your biochemistry when you're eating certain things. And yeah, it's even though we discuss it and talk about it, it doesn't necessarily mean he's okay with
Right.
it.
Right. He's disconnected.
Sometimes in our family, I found that having an outsider say the same things has a little more influence. So I'll often go to outside help, whether that's a doctor, a counselor,
A book, a
a
podcast,
book, a
YouTube
mentor,
video.
a podcast. Like they have to hear it from someone else a lot of times to believe it.
And it clicks.
And then they come to me and they're like, "Oh, mom, yeah, I'm gonna do this because I heard this podcast." And so, and I know that that's difficult when he's already resistant to
Oh yeah.
your suggestions. But I would again, okay, we're not gonna mess around here. We're sneaky. We will be sneaky. We will call someone. Okay, I need you to do this and talk to my kid and do this thing for me. Like whatever it takes, we'll figure out how to get in there. Right? So we just figure out if there's anybody
Or anything. So, well, let me jump in here. This would be my recommendation to you is just find anything that will light this kid up. Anything that he's interested in, try anything, ask anything, take him here, take him there, just do whatever you've got to do to find a way to start building a relationship,
some
get
life.
some spark and some life back in him. So one of the people I'm coaching right now, her daughter has been suicidal. And so we're working through this right now. That is one of the things we're working on. And same thing I said to her, I'm like, you just have to try everything. And she's like, no, she's so despondent. She's unreactive. She doesn't want to try anything. I'm like, try everything, all stops. Your daughter is threatening to take her life. All stops. You just try everything you can to reach her. And so she kept trying. She's like, she just sits there. She's just grumpy. And then today we talked. She's like, I took her to a horse place where they do equine therapy. And she lit up and she's like, yeah, I want to do that. And I'm like, bam, you got something. Run with it. And keep trying other things. Try everything under the sun. Oh, can I buy you a dog? Can I buy you a cat? Can I buy you a gerbil? Can I buy you a snake? Can I take you to Tasmania? Let's go. What do you need to do? You want to climb mountains? You want to go mountain biking? You want to rock climbing? You want to go race car? What do you want to do? Let's go. And you got to start making, and this is for everybody, you guys. When it gets severe, do whatever you have to do. It takes massive action. Massive action. If you want to, I know you don't want to share specific, we're in a group and stuff. If you want to schedule an appointment with me and you want to go through specifics, we can go through everything and I can give you all the stuff. And we walk through very specific things with how to respond to trauma and certain addictions and things. And we can walk through a whole program if you want. But for all of you, when you're facing things like this, man, this got heavy tonight, didn't it? This is good. But life gets heavy. It does. It gets crazy. And please, will all of you understand, we've worked with enough people. We've walked through some hard things. And we've had some crazy hard things with adoption and race and difficulties. So please know we feel what you're feeling. We know what you're going through, and there are resources. But our invitation, serious invitation to you tonight is don't just keep treating serious things casually. Pull all stops and go all in.
And I think, I would just want to emphasize that that's probably the most dangerous thing, is to feel the sense of, well, I've tried everything. There's nothing I can do. I guess we'll just, deal with it. And that's the response a lot of people have, because we feel overwhelmed by it or uncertain. But what Greg is talking about here is the approach we have to take. We have to be willing to do whatever it takes, whatever the cost. And when you're willing to do that, one, you'll find the answer. Two, your kids will see how much you care, because they see that you're really willing to do anything. And that makes a statement right there.
Okay, I'm trying to catch up here on all this. lots of comments on here. Okay. Okay, got a lot more context here. And there's multiple questions in here about like devices. What do you do with devices? What do you do if the kids are
Well, So
older
what if they own their own
and
devices?
they own their own device? How do you check up what they're seeing? Yeah, and then gain control of our bodies by getting back in. Yes, okay. Okay, thank you. So I know we're going long. We'll kind of wrap up. The devices are painful. So my guess is for a lot of you, even with your older kids, they're going to buy their own devices. How do you control what's being seen on there? You might find that they're just looking at pornography or they're just wasting insane amounts of time. We kind of have a standard rule in our home that anyone that's in our home, even if they bought their own device, we all do a weekly screen time check, and everybody knows how everyone has spent their time. And my approach is, and here's a soft way to do this so they don't feel threatened and don't feel like you're helicoptering or controlling. I'll go in, and this is how I'd start a conversation. Hey, you guys, I do not trust myself with dangerous things. And so I want accountability and transparency. And so I'll tell them that. I have to be 100% transparent with Rachel. She sees all of my emails. She sees all of my messages. She can access my phone at any time. I don't have any passwords that I keep from her. In fact, I don't have anything I keep from her. One time
Sometimes
I tried,
you have to ask
one
me for your
time
passwords.
I'm like, hey babe, can you help me buy a gift for you? So one time I tried to hide some money so I could surprise her with a gift. And she's like, what are you doing with that money? Like, come on, just let me
I do all
surprise you.
finances.
She does everything. And I'm like, can I do anything without you knowing? And that's great. And I tell my kids that. I don't trust myself with dangerous things. There's too many dangerous things in the world. I don't trust me. So please don't feel threatened if I don't trust you. We're
and
all in this together to protect each other and ourselves from dangerous things. Pornography is a dangerous thing. Substance abuse is a dangerous thing. Like really dark, toxic things, those are dangerous. Let's be transparent. Let's talk about it. Let's be open about it. And I know you probably feel bad or feel guilty, or maybe you don't. Let's understand this whole situation. And even with your older kids, invite them into that conversation and that accountability. Help them understand where that stuff leads. Help them have that openness. And again, Brian Tracy said this, and I love asking this question. If your child is afraid to tell you the truth, who has made them afraid? That one hits home, right? And so we got to build that relationship where they'll just come and tell you the truth.
Well, and I think what you're touching on there is that you create this culture of openness, right? So it's people hate to be treated differently than everybody else, right? So if you're in a family and like everybody's doing their thing, and then one or two of the kids get singled out of like, I want to see what you're doing, and you need to tell me your passwords, and you need like, I want to see your history. Like now they feel singled out. Like, well, why did I get picked on? But if that is just the culture, like you can look at my history at any time and I can look at your history at any time, and the same for the kids. And like, we know everybody's passwords and we can read each other's texts. If that's the openness that you have, then nobody's being picked on. It's just how things are done. It's just how it operates.
There's a
around
reason for it.
And then, right, especially then when they understand the reason behind it, which he was explaining, we're protecting each other. So when we have that openness, then all of us feel protected because we know at any moment, someone in the family could say, hey, let me see your phone, or let me see your history, and let me see your screen time. And it's not weird because that's what we do. So when we're trying to, again, it all comes down to the principles and practices, the root causes of things, the underlying foundations. When we have certain foundations in place, then a lot of the issues that we're having automatically get solved. and they no longer become issues because this thing is in place as a foundational piece. We talk about the extraordinary family life formula, and there's different pieces to them, and this is one of the key pieces. The principles and practices that you establish in your family culture are the foundation of the pyramid for helping the rest of the things to go right. So you have to, with every one of the issues that are going on, you have to look at them and say, what's the root cause of this thing? And how could it be prevented? Like, what foundational pieces, what foundational tactics, strategies, family culture can I create, implement in order to prevent all of the things I don't want to happen? And that right there, like, I don't think unless you've experienced it, you can really understand how truly powerful that is. Because until that's established, we spend all this time like dealing with trying to solve the issues, trying to solve the problems, trying to discipline, criticize, whatever, all the things that parents do, all the things. But when we can put the foundational pieces in place, it's like it's stopping the problem at its source. And that right there is where the true power is. There's the cat.
Oh.
So
Shannon, are you seeing all this love in the chat for you? So yeah, we love you, we support you, all of you, you guys. We know that it's this thing we're doing in life and marriage and parenting, man, family, it can be tough.
And it is tough. And that's what, we're here not to tell you how easy it is. And in fact, the approach we take, I would say, is not easier. It's not the easier approach. It is actually the more difficult approach, but it's the approach that creates the long-term results you want. It takes more work. It takes more of you. It requires you to be more. But we can only recommend it because it's the path that we've walked and we know that it works. So it's not easy and it's not always fun, but it does work and it does produce long-lasting, I would say generational, but we haven't got there yet.
But we're on our way. I can't wait. We're gonna have 47 grandkids and 97 great grandkids. We're going all the way, people. Okay, one last thought. Create a pattern interrupter. Okay, all of you, if a spouse, you or a spouse or a child is having a trouble, create a pattern
Like the
interruption.
things we've talked about.
Massive, just do something, pattern interrupt. Take a trip, have an experience, just do something, go somewhere where there's no Wi-Fi and no cell service. Just do something, create a pattern interruption. Because when we're in the pattern, it's like this, we can't see and we got to pop out and go, gee, what's going on? This is different. Then it opens up for different experiences. So it might be a trip, it might be experience, different thoughts.
Different feelings.
Create that pattern interruption, create some change, invest in your kids, make the deposits, go on the dates, find the fun things, help them live the different story. You live a different story, like mix things up, do whatever you have to do. This matters. You guys, this work we're doing matters so much. It's the most important work we're doing. So be willing to go all in. Well, you already are all in. You people are amazing. I just want to go around and hug you and tell you how awesome you are. And that your kids are fortunate to have you as their parents. And we are fortunate and blessed to have you in this community, in this tribe. You're amazing human beings. Keep up the hope. Keep your heads up. Keep learning, keep reading. Let's support each other. I mean, use the Facebook group, use the community, and let's do this. Let's live extraordinary lives and fix extraordinary problems.
That's right.
Because they come. Oh, they come. But you got this, okay? Everyone say it. Say, I got this. And mean it.
I
Say,
got this.
I got this. Say it me. I didn't see you say it. I can see you. I can see your faces. Yeah, say it and mean it. I got this. I got this. Even when you feel like you don't. I got this. I got this. Whether they're 2 or 25, I got this. I got this because we're influencers. And we're leaders. We're awesome. Okay. Love you guys. Thanks for being here. I'm getting cold now, so we're gonna
time to
go
go in.
inside. Okay. Love you guys. Get after it. Go low on your kids. Go low on your spouses. Go after those goals. Okay. Love you. Good night. Reach upward.